what is it that Amazon wants to be?
Well, there are a couple ways to answer that. Probably the biggest one, the best way, if I have to choose a single way to answer that question, is that the thing that connects everything that Amazon does is our number one conviction and idea and philosophy and principle, which is customer obsession as opposed to competitor obsession. And so we are always focused on the customer, working backwards from the customer's needs, developing new skills internally so that we can satisfy what we perceive to be future customer needs. We have a whole working backwards process that starts with the customer needs and works backwards. So that is really, if you look at, it seems like we're in a bunch of different businesses. So we have Amazon Web Services, which is completely different from our, Amazon Prime business or Amazon Marketplace or Amazon Studios and so on. But really, the way that those businesses are run is very, very similar. And it all starts with, it's not just customer obsession, that's the number one, but we have a very inventive culture, so we like to pioneer and invent. There are other very effective business strategies. Pioneering is not the only effective business strategy, and in fact, some people would argue it's not the most effective one. Close following can be a very good business strategy, and it's worked many times if you look at the history of business, but it just isn't who we are. Willingness to think long term, I think that's another common thread that runs through every single thing we do. We are very happy to invest in new initiatives that are very risky for 5 to 7 years, which in most companies won't do that. Companies will invest for very long periods of time, and they should in those cases where the outcomes are more certain. It's the combination of the risk-taking and the long-term outlook that make Amazon not unique, but special in a smaller crowd. And then finally, taking real pride in operational excellence. So just doing things well, finding defects, and working backwards. So that's all the incremental improvement that in business, most successful companies are very good at this one. If you're not good at finding defects, finding the root cause of the defects, fixing that root cause, you don't ever want to let defects flow downstream. That's a key part of doing a good job in any business, in my opinion.
You have said that the three pillars, the marketplace, Amazon Prime, and Amazon Web Services.
That's right.
Let's go in reverse order. Amazon Web Services now is the largest contributor to revenue, it is said.
Well, not to revenue. It's a big contributor to profit. Our retail business, by the way, in our established countries is also very profitable. We keep investing, so we're investing in video, original content with Amazon Studios and so on. But Amazon Web Services is remarkable, I think, for a couple of reasons. It follows all those principles that I laid out at the beginning. But one of the most unusual things that happened with Amazon Web Services is the amount of runway that we got, which is a gift, before we faced like-minded competition. We had, it appears to me just empirically that if you invent a new way of doing something, typically, if you're lucky, you get about 2 years of runway before competitors copy your idea. And 2 years is actually a pretty long time in a fast-moving industry, so that's a big head start. For whatever reason, and I have a hypothesis of what the reason is, but for whatever reason, Amazon Web Services got 7 years of runway before we faced like-minded competition. There were other people doing similar kinds of things, but not the same way and not with the same approach and the same mindset. And in my experience, it's unheard of to get so much runway. And I think the reason that happened is because the incumbents in technology for enterprises, sort of infrastructure technology for enterprises, thought that what we were doing was just so damn weird that it could never work. So we just kept very quiet about it. We knew it was working, and we would read news stories that would say things like, do you really think anybody is going to buy mission-critical enterprise infrastructure from an online bookseller? And we would look at that. You know, certain people were opining on that, and we would read those articles, and we would look at our business statements, and we'd be like, well, they are. So we kind of knew, but it was, so we got very lucky. That was a gift, and what that allowed us to do was build a gigantic advantage in terms of the feature set and the service offerings and the cost structure and everything else that you just can't wave a magic wand and do that quickly. It takes years and years.
Yeah, but I mean, the central point seems to me is
now we're not stopping. So that team is, every year, 500, 600, 700, 800 new features and services. So they keep pushing on that. That team is just doing an amazing job.
The other thing is Amazon Prime, the second pillar, Amazon Prime. 65 million members of Amazon Prime.
Well, we don't reveal that, so I don't want to nod.
Why is that? Why is it so crucial for your future, Prime?
Well, Prime is what we want Prime to be, and what we've developed it into over time is it's the best of Amazon. So you can get basically, if you join Prime, we want to have our core service be outstanding, and anybody who wants to use Amazon and not be a Prime member should have a great experience. And people who are not Prime members, for example, can still get free shipping. They have to buy a certain number of products, or they have to get above a certain shipping hurdle, a certain product kind of order basket hurdle. I think it's $49. And if they get above that $49 hurdle, then they can get free shipping. And so what we did with Prime is say, look, you can get free shipping without joining Prime, but if you want fast free shipping, our best service, then you need to join Prime.
It's $99 a year.
It's $99 a year. And then we started adding other benefits to it that we know that people like. So we added Prime Video, which has been a very successful new benefit for Prime. We started many years ago. We added just 10 or 20,000 shows, and they were all licensed, and they were all reruns. It was things like Gilligan's Island. And it was kind of a by-the-way offering. So we said, look, you already are a Prime member. Here's a new benefit. We know it's not the most important TV shows in the world, but it also isn't costing you anything extra.
But the important,
so it grew, and now we're doing Emmy Award-winning and Golden Globe Award-winning original content that, again, you get access to just at no additional charge, just being a Prime member.
So getting into the creative part of the entertainment business, what was the motivation for that?
Well, from a business point of view, there are two different ways to think about that. We always start with the customer-centric point of view, and then, how can we, if we're going to make original content, which Amazon Studios is doing, how can it be better or different from the so much content that's out there that you could license already and not have to make yourself? And the fact of the matter is that the over-the-top streaming services with a subscription model can in fact make different kinds of content. So a show like Transparent, which has won Golden Globes and Emmys, is it's not a show that could be successfully done on broadcast TV, because broadcast TV needs a much bigger audience for that. Transparent, we want to make shows that are somebody's favorite show. And on broadcast TV, you can be very happy if you have a big show that is 20 million people's third favorite show. And so you can actually think about the creative process a little differently. You can attract different storytellers. You can go for stories that are narrower but incredibly powerful and well told. Mozart in the Jungle is the same way. I don't see how Mozart in the Jungle, another one that has won Golden Globes and Emmys, I don't see how it could be successful on broadcast TV either. And so we can attract a different kind of a storyteller who wants to tell a certain kind of story. And then there are other things that are just tailwinds in this business that are happening because of HBO and Netflix and others that 10 years ago you couldn't get A-list talent to do TV, they perceived it as stigmatizing. And today that's just completely inverted. Today, A-list talent wants to do serialized TV. Yeah. Because the quality of the storytelling is so high, that's just completely flipped on its head.
And I've listed 3 pillars. What might be the 4th pillar?
Well, it could be, we don't know yet is the real answer. And I think it's very hard to identify. We do a lot of different things, and these things will, the 4th pillar will rise and distinguish itself. We'll put energy into many things. I'm optimistic about things like Amazon Studios, so the original content. I think that actually could become a 4th pillar on its own. Right. And I think that what we're doing with natural language understanding and Echo and Alexa could become a 4th pillar.
Everybody talks about artificial intelligence. Everybody. Yeah. I mean, and everybody is investing in artificial intelligence.
Rightly so. This is
what does it add?
This is a real thing.
Enlarge on that, and also on the idea of what Echo is and how it may very well be the beginning on the edge, the wedge into artificial intelligence that benefits everybody.
Well, Echo is a small black cylinder that is, it has 7 microphones on the top, and it has a speaker inside and a digital signal processor and some other compute inside. And it's Wi-Fi connected to the cloud. And Alexa, the agent, the artificially intelligent agent that lives in the cloud, can talk to you through through Echo. And one of the interesting things about Echo, the device, is it uses those 7 microphones to do something called beamforming. And so basically it can hear you very well, even in a very loud kitchen environment, for example. You have the dishwasher running and you have the sink running water, and maybe somebody's playing the television set in the living room, and Alexa can still hear you because of that digital signal processing. And so you can say, Alexa, what time is it? Alexa, what's the weather today? Alexa, in natural language, Alexa, play a certain song, et cetera, et cetera. And people really, this has been a big hit. We launched it a few years ago. It has vastly exceeded our expectations in terms of volume. We have literally thousands of people dedicated to working on it.
And Google wants to be in that business, and everybody else wants to be in that business.
Want to be in that business. And so here, we got the kind of standard, 2.5 year head start.
Let me talk about the Washington Post.
Yeah.
You bought the Washington Post without doing any due diligence. You were so impressed with...
Well, no, I did no due diligence because I knew Don Graham for 15 years.
Did he come to you because he needed a...
If any of you know Don Graham, he's possibly the most honorable person in the world. So he just laid out all the warts for me. He laid out all of the great things about the Post for me. And no amount of due diligence could ever have gotten to more clarity than just talking to Don for several hours.
Why did you buy it?
I bought it because it's important. So I would never buy a financially upside down salty snack food company. That doesn't make any sense to me. But the Washington Post is important. And so it makes sense to me to take something like that. And I'm optimistic. And I thought there were some ways to make it. I want it to be a self-sustaining, profitable enterprise. I think that would be healthy for the Post, and I think it can be done. Our approach is actually very, very simple. We need to go. It's hard to execute on, and it's going to take time. But the approach is simple. We need to go from making a relatively large amount of money per reader on a relatively small number of readers. That's the historic model of the Post. To a model where we make a relatively small amount of money per reader on a very large number of readers. That's the new model.
But that's your business model too, isn't it?
That's a better business model for the internet era. Yeah. And the Post is unusual, and this is one of the things from a business point of view why I'm so optimistic about the Post, is that it can go from being, it has historically been a local paper, a very good local paper, but it happens to be a local paper situated in the capital city of the United States of America. And so it has its kind of geographic location is superb for converting it from being a local paper to a national and even a global publication. And so that's a gift that the internet brings. To do national and global publication in the days of print super expensive. You have to figure out how to have printing presses everywhere, and distribution everywhere, physical distribution everywhere, very challenging. Today, that piece is easy. To get global distribution in digital form is extraordinarily simple.
Because it's an important newspaper in the nation's capital, the most powerful country in the world, did you want it also because it would give you political influence?
No. And I think one of the reasons that Don Graham liked me as an owner is because he didn't think I would politicize it.
Yeah.
And so, I think because it's in the capital city of the United States of America, it should not be, an overt. You take the British model of newspapers, and are they kind of left-wing paper or right-wing paper? Right. And there are certain people who, if they had bought the Washington Post, would have converted it in one of those directions. And I don't think that would be healthy for the Post or healthy for the country. And plus, I'm also, in that respect, I'm also a good owner because I'm so damn busy.
You and I sat last night with a former astronaut.
That was very fun.
Scott Kelly, who was there at the International Space Station for I don't know how many days. What is it that you hope to accomplish
in space?
In space.
Well, this is, first of all, let's back up. This is a childhood dream. I fell in love with the idea of space and space exploration and space travel when I was 5 years old, and I watched Neil Armstrong step onto the moon. And you don't choose your passions choose you. So I'm infected with this idea. It's, I couldn't ever stop thinking about space. I've been thinking about it ever since then. And I did, so again, I did not, just when I started Blue Origin, which is the name of this space company, I did not make a list of all the businesses in the world where I thought I might get the highest return on invested capital. And it was driven by passion and curiosity and the need to explore the things that I care about. And so we have over time built a brilliant team. There are now over 800 people at Blue Origin. We have a suborbital tourism vehicle called New Shepard that flies like a regular rocket when it launches and then lands on its tail like a Buck Rogers rocket. We've used the same vehicle. It's reusable. We've used the same vehicle 5 times.
And that's key to the business of going into space.
That's the absolute key. If you ask the question, why is space travel so expensive? There is one reason, and it's because we throw the hardware away every time after using it. It's all expendable. And even in the past, when we've done things that were sort of semi-reusable, they weren't really what I would call operable reusability because they were disassembled, inspected, and then put back together. So you can imagine how expensive air travel would be if after your Hawaii vacation, you get to Hawaii and, if they throw the 747 away, it's going to be really expensive. But it's also going to be super expensive if after you get to Hawaii, they disassemble the whole thing, inspect every part, and put it all back together before you're allowed to fly again. That was the problem with the space shuttle. And so it's really important that you design the vehicle from the beginning for highly operable reusability. The propellants are incredibly low cost. People don't know this about rockets, but a big rocket, let's say it has 1 million pounds of propellant on board, 2/3 of that may be liquid oxygen, say 600,000 pounds or so of liquid oxygen. Do you know how much liquid oxygen costs? 10 cents a pound. So that's $60,000 worth of liquid oxygen. And then add the fuel costs in. You're still talking about a few $100,000 in propellant costs. In the launch, costs on the order of $60, $70, $80, $100, $150 million. So how do you get from $100 million, it's $100 million to $300,000 of propellants? It's simple, you're throwing the hardware away. And so it's really now, the engineering challenge involved in building a highly operable, reusable vehicle is gigantic. But if you can do that, it's a game changer. You change everything. And now why, to your original question, so that's sort of the background.
Right.
I believe it's incredibly important that we humans go out into space. And the primary reason if you think long-term about this, is we need to do that to preserve the Earth. So I'm not one of the Plan B guys. There's a kind of conventional wisdom that's quite common, that one of the reasons we need to go into space and settle another planet is as a kind of backup for humanity. You know, if Earth gets destroyed, at least we have this other place. And I don't like that. That's not motivating for me. Because I'll tell you what we know for sure. We have now sent robotic probes to every planet in this solar system. We have taken close looks at them all. And believe me, this is the best planet. It is not even close. So what you need to do, and if you look at, if you want a thriving, growing civilization, you want population growth to continue, you want a whole bunch of things to continue. And I believe that in the next few hundred years, what will happen is we'll move all heavy industry into space for a whole bunch of practical reasons. Easier access to resources of all kinds, material resources as well as energy. If you think about solar energy on Earth, it's inherently problematic because it only is available half the time. In space, solar energy is available 24/7. But the list of practical reasons why that...
But you also have to build an infrastructure up there.
Yeah, and that's why you need really low cost. You need to shrink the cost of lifting mass into space from Earth by 2 orders of magnitude. You need to reduce that cost by 100 times, and then you can do these things. And that's and then and Blue Origin is not going to do this all by ourselves. What I want to do with Blue Origin is build heavy lifting infrastructure that lowers the cost of access to space, so that the next generation of entrepreneurs can have a dynamic entrepreneurial explosion in space. And that's how we'll move all heavy industry into space, and then ultimately Earth can be, effectively zoned residential and light industrial.
You and Bill Gates got together and started something called GRAIL, a company fighting cancer. And the idea is?
The science of that is unbelievable. And basically you can sequence, tumors shed little bits of DNA into your bloodstream, and you can use sequencing technology to amplify those things and then detect cancers at very, very early stages. And for a lot of cancers, early detection is a big deal. So this is, the science of this is very promising, very real, and it might not work.
The market...
But it might, and I'm optimistic.
Thank you, Jeff Bezos.
Thank you, Charlie.